Today. This is one of the first of our events that the Historical Society and the Lehman College Performing Arts Center will be co-sponsoring. Concerns Bronx and authors. And what better author and Bronx man than the inimitable John McNamara. The most recent one of his books are McNamara's Old Bronx. If you're interested in this book, after he does a little reading from it, we have some material that you can secure. We also, those of you who are not familiar with history and asphalt, well, you should be, because this is an encyclopedia of Bronx street and place names. This is the second edition. In fact, we're working just today, in fact, on the third edition, the 1990 edition. Every Bronx street name. Took John 40 years to do this. Took Professor Otan 5 to edit it. Took me another 2. This is a 47-year book. Just so you know. Well, without further ado, let me introduce John McNamara.
It's a pleasure to be here tonight, except that I should be in a bathing suit. But be as it may, it's very nice to see people still interested in the Bronx, and I hope we all come away with a little more knowledge than when we came in. Can you hear me in the back row there? Yeah, good. All right. Me and the historian, I always feel as though we should start at the beginning. And the beginning, to me, it would be this history in asphalt, because this is what got me started in Bronx history from the very beginning. And this is, I won't say an afterthought, but this is a distillation of it. Now, one of the questions people always ask, I guess everybody who writes, is, how'd you come to write the book? And, well, some people actually start out determined to write a book. They start right from the beginning, they're going to write a book. And as far as publishers and agents, they don't even give it a thought. Their idea is, someday I'm going to write a book. Well, I confess I had no such thought. This book, in fact, my whole lifelong hobby, started when I was about 10 years old. And I was born and raised in Melrose, and my parents had a summer bungalow on Todd's Neck. And so from this time of the year, first part of June, the last part of June, right till Labor Day, we would go up to Throgs Neck. And to me, everybody else, Throgs Neck was like being out in the country. There was cows up there, and there was a horse farm, and we used to get down to the farmer to get our milk every morning, and we never wore shoes except on Sunday morning. And it was a whole different life for about 10 weeks a year. And if you know what Old Orchard Beach was like, or Silver Beach, or Locust Point, or even Harding Park, you get an idea of the type of people. They're all Bronx people who just moved 5 or 6 miles away for the summer. And some of them were just bungalow colonies. Well, just like today, a boy becomes a man when he gets an automobile, we boys became, we graduated from children when we allowed to go out in a canoe, because all these bungalow colonies had canoes, and that was the thing to do, go out in it. So I was about 10, 11 years old, my brother was a year older, and finally we got to the big day when we were allowed to go out by ourselves. And I remember my mother and father walking down the beach carrying a canoe, and we got in, and my mother stood there looking like the fisherman's wife whose husband was going off to the sea somewhere. And the last thing they said is, stay close to the shore. Well, we knew darn well as soon as we started to paddle the canoe that they were going to follow us along the shoreline. So we right away we outfoxed and we turned in the opposite direction. We headed towards Fort Schuyler, and they couldn't follow us then. Well, we got to be quite adept at going out and paddling around and all that. And one day, this was the fateful day, we came to the end of, beginning of Fort Schuyler, and there's a very narrow causeway there leading into the fort. I would say this was about 1920. And the idea is we were going to pick up our canoe and carry it overland a very old the distance or width of this stage, and we would go from the Long Island Sound into the East River instead of going all around the outside of the fort. And as we picked up the canoe and started carrying overland, a man came along a horse and carriage, and he stopped to watch us. We got very nervous. We thought, oh, he's going to chase us or something like that. Well, he turned out to be Captain Charlie Pereira, and he was the lighthouse keeper. And he said, you know, boys, you're doing just what the Indians did centuries ago. And naturally, we were intrigued and everything. And he started telling us about the Indians and how he used to pick up pottery, and he showed us what owl heads look like, and explained about oyster shells, and we got very much intrigued. And so he said to us, well, look, when you come back, go around the outside of the fort and stop in, and I'll show you some of my collection. I even have some continental buttons from the War of 1776, because the British troops landed very close to here, and the Hessians. And he says, I have some of them. Well, we stopped in and we saw his collection, and then it got to be quite a nice custom to stop by. The Captain Ferrer didn't realize it, but his wife was a very good cook, and she used to bake cookies. So we boys always had cookies and milk every time we got there. Well, then one day he gave me a set of geodetic charts, and I realized later on he was supposed to throw them away. They were obsolete. But he gave them to me, and I was very much intrigued by them, because a lot of the names on these charts, they weren't in any usage anymore. And we would go along, sometimes we even paddle up the Great Neck or down along near Clawson Point. And I would stop and I'd see some old guy, we always refer to them as old geezers, and I'd say to him, is this Mosquito Cove? And he'd say, Mosquito Cove? He said, gee, I haven't heard that name in 50, 60 years, you know. And they were very, very much amazed that I knew about them. So that really started me off. Then I had a little shoebox, and I used to have all 3x5 cards, and I'd write down the names, the old names and the new names. And then, in those days up in Thrives Neck, there were a lot of estates. Belonged to the Havermeyers, Lawrods, Morris family, all that. And we got to know the caretakers and the tenant farmers. And they didn't mind stopping and giving us some little stories. And I learned all about the old squires and some of their idiosyncrasies. I knew the names of the horses they used to have. And I got to be, well, I won't say an expert, but that took the place of baseball scores with me, or baseball cards. And this went on from year after year, and I gradually extended my knowledge, and I got to know City Island quite well. Then we would visit the different islands in the Sound and down the East River. We even landed at South Brother Island, North Brother Island. We were almost arrested on Rikers Island because they were making it into a prison at the time. And we had some exciting times going to Hellgate as we got older. So this got to be, a nice pastime with me. And after a while, I got into scouting, and every time I took the scouts out on a hike, I always made sure that they knew something about the history of their background. And I always thought how fortunate they were compared to me, because like yourself, you probably got very little of local history. You know all about Gettysburg, you know all about Valley Forge and things like that, but you never knew about the history that was right under our noses here. And I was amazed how much had happened right here in the Bronx. Especially that one where the old lighthouse keeper told us about the British landing on